So let's go ahead and just talk about the team
Let's
you want to
get the
talk
element
about.
out of the room. I got a lot to talk about because they are this is the best team I have seen since Carson Edwards blessed my screen with his. And it's just it was great to see. Great to actually go in person. The first time seeing this team in person since it would have been about 2 seasons ago. I watched them play Nebraska and beat the crap out of them. But I think if this team shows up to Detroit, nobody can stop them. If this team shows up to Phoenix, nobody can stop them. Their role players are hitting threes. It's something I've said since the beginning of not this season, but last season. If our role players can hit threes off of Edie getting the ball, nobody can stop us. And that's exactly what happened against Utah State. That's exactly what happened against Grambling State there in the second half. I wasn't like worried, but I was like, why are we only up by 5? Some teams just take a little bit to get off. It's normal. And it's the same thing that happened against Utah State for the first 10 minutes. It was a close game, but once Matt Painter kind of figured out how this team was going to play them and made the adjustments accordingly, it was just game over from that point. And I think that's just kind of how his game plan works. Sometimes, it's too late. They've already kind of beat you, but by the time he figures it out, if he figures it out, it's going to be a tough one. But supporting cast look great. We're not necessarily solely relying on Edie. That being said, he is the first player to score at least 50 points, grab 40 rebounds, and shoot 65% from the field since some guy named Lou Alcindor.
Never heard of him.
Just some random dude.
Just some random guy. My biggest question I have on my notes here is, can they bring that to Detroit? This is a team that I will admit is can have a great stretch and then turn around and have a terrible game. I don't think this happens against Gonzaga, who's their second team, but who's the team they're going to be playing. But it's very, very interesting how that could turn out.
Be careful bashing Gonzaga, because you know what happens when you bash Gonzaga.
All right. Yeah, it hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out. I had them losing the first round against McNeese State, who I had making the Sweet 16 run. So, yeah, that really did not work out.
I had Gonzaga out the first round myself, so that didn't age well.
Upset.
It's March. It's a simple thing that every time I get a bracket, I've been saying forever, is you find Michigan State and you at least take them out of our first round, and you find Gonzaga and you put them in Sweet 16. And then from there, you can figure out the rest of your bracket. Mm-hmm. Why we doubted Gonzaga, I'll have no idea, and I'll never understand.
You look at the team up until Kentucky. That's why I doubted them. Like, you got a week.
They've been playing so well over the last month and a half.
Right, but I'm saying the reason I just have a trouble with trusting that is that in the non-conference they had great teams they were playing and they struggled. So then they got to their conference, to beat you down so hard, played a Kentucky team that does not have the best defense, and kind of has an easy conference. So it's hard for me to trust them in March based off of that preference. I would do that for anybody, especially Gonzaga. But I get your point. Mark Few in March is an unstoppable force, so I don't hate that. But this team is actually looking really good. I will admit it's going to be an interesting matchup because these are two teams that played in the Maui tournament, and they are both different from the teams that showed up there.
What was the final score in Maui? Do you remember?
See if I wrote it down here. I don't think I did. I did not write it down. It was about it was a 10-point game. Purdue. I think it was maybe like 77 to 66, something like that, or 77-67.
10-point game, Purdue's way,
right? If you can look that up, or if our TD can look that up, whatever. But one thing I will point out from that game that I do have written down here is that in Maui, in this run, Gonzaga was 10 for 21 against not Morehead State, but McNeese State, 8 for 15 from 3 against Kansas. And then Purdue made them go 6 for 32 at Maui. Purdue is one of the best, a top 50 3-point defense. So they're going to have to find shots elsewhere if they want to beat Purdue.
So basically, Gonzaga's theory was what everybody's theory should be when they play Purdue was, we're either going to live by the 3, die by the 3, shoot from the outside because we're not going to mess around with Edie.
Exactly. Purdue beat Gonzaga 73-63. We just got that in. Thank you, Garrett. And, I could see it ending up that way too because Gonzaga was up for a lot of that game. I do remember that. So I could see it playing out the way where Gonzaga's hidden early. They go out to an early lead, but Purdue kind of reels them back in and ends up getting that win. But I got Purdue.
So I'm taking Gonzaga.
You're taking Zaga.